The following podcast contains explicit language and mature content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Eyes On, or welcome to, for the very first time, the Eyes On podcast. Today, we are here with Carleigh Herbert.
She's a special effects makeup artist, a glam makeup artist, prosthetic makeup artist. We're going to hear all about how she got into her job, what she does, and what it's like working on set.
Putting stuff on people's faces.
Yeah. Not just faces, I think.
Ooh,
Yeah.
and other places?
Yeah.
We'll
get into it.
Listen, we'll get into it. Okay, everybody, here we are. Eyes On, moving right along.
Today we've got eyes on Carleigh Herbert.
Yes, thank you for
Makeup
joining
artist.
us.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
Yes.
What a cool podcast idea. I'm so stoked to see this
We'll
whole
see
series.
if it works. But we always like to find, what is our connection? And of course, it's, entertainment. So you always know someone. And actually, I would say our connection is through Teen Wolf.
Oh, really?
Because we've worked with Jeff Gaffner, who's a casting director
Yes.
for you. Yeah. Okay.
I just did another thing that he casted, and I finally met him in person. I was on Teen Wolf for like 5 years, and I finally was like, why do I know this person? It's like, because I've had a million emails with your name on it. He's a cool dude.
He's also
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so, the like VHS movies, those crazy
Yes.
like horror. My best friend, Micheline Pitt, she directed one of the segments, and Jeff was the one who was like casting everybody, funny enough.
Oh, wow.
And so he was like walking around. I was like, what are you doing here?
Well, this
you
is
know?
good intel for us to ask him when he.
Yeah.
He cast a Snapchat series for us.
Oh,
We
cool.
produced, yeah.
Back in 2021.
2021. Yep.
So yeah,
He's great to work with.
I've heard
Super sweet
he
guy.
seems like he jumps around everywhere.
Does
works
anything,
with everybody.
does everything.
Cool.
yeah. So that's our
that's so
connection is through
cool.
Now Teen Wolf.
Yes.
Would you say is that really where you kind of got your foot into the business and really started, or no? Am I
think
wrong on
as
that?
far as like union work and like bigger budget work and stuff, getting out of like the non-union kind of lower budget world, absolutely.
Okay.
I actually like started as a PA on it. I started working for this guy, Kenny Myers. He owns Skin Illustrator, all this stuff, and he was working with Chris Gallagher on it. And I was working in his effects lab at the time, and so I just kind of started PAing for them and just kind of going and helping.
And sorry, what do you mean effects lab?
Like a prosthetic
Okay.
lab.
Okay.
Yeah. So like where they make the prosthetics and stuff like that, and like build the creatures and designs and stuff like that. And I had met Chris Gallagher, who was running the prosthetic department for Teen Wolf. And he was like, why don't you come PA, hang out? And then I got my union days within the same year, and he's like, why don't you just come on set? And so he just threw me into it literally the day after I got in the union. And luckily it all worked out. So it definitely was like a huge foot in the door for that kind of
And now you're a department head, so this happened relatively fast.
Yeah, like I got in the union, and then I think 2 seasons later they needed a new department head because I do a lot of beauty as well. I really do beauty and effects pretty hand in hand.
Yeah.
And
Is that usual that people do both?
how do I say this nicely? It's usual that people say they do both, but I will say there are a good amount of amazing artists who do both prosthetics and beauty, but I would say there's like a handful that truly do it.
Yeah.
I
And
know
actually,
that
just
sounds
for
kinda
people
snotty, but-
who don't really know, what is the difference between those? When you say beauty, it doesn't necessarily mean beauty.
Right. It could be a character makeup. It could be anything. Like you could technically call it straight makeup and then
Okay,
prosthetic
straight makeup. Yeah, it's like
Okay.
what
So-
normal
Yeah,
people
yeah.
should look like on camera.
And I mean, straight makeup, this is, everybody can have different opinions on this because it's art, whatever.
Yeah.
But prosthetics are pretty much when you're like gluing something to someone's face, like heavy pieces. Like you could still be doing like little cuts and bruises and a bald cap or something for like character and straight, but that's kind of the huge difference, And then you go in that whole dance of like you have your on-set artists, and then you have your artists that are back in the labs building the prosthetics. So there's like, a million different
So you've worked
degrees.
in the lab,
Yeah.
and you've worked on set.
Yeah, but what I will say is I worked in a lab for a couple of years. I am not the best lab person. I would not hire myself in a lab,
Okay.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm really thankful that I went and did that, because now when I'm able to run shows or help people with their shows, like even though I don't make molds, like I have all that knowledge.
Yeah.
So like I can talk to the shop people and I know what's going on. If there's a problem with a piece or something, like we can talk about it. And I actually like understand, for the most part. So for me, when I went in a shop younger, I always kind of had that intention of just getting some education, So I was lucky that I jumped into it for a bit and got to meet a lot of really great people.
Right. So when you're on as the department head, then would you hire the effects place? Does that fall under your purview? Would you come in and then hire who you want to do the molds and everything like that, or no? Is that usually
What's so funny, and like, because I do jump around in so many mediums, like I could be doing like a crazy, vampire movie, and the next day I'm doing like Sex Lives of College Girls, which is a bunch of like beauty makeups in college, So it really depends on the show. Like a movie I'm about to do, the prosthetic company actually hired me to like use their prosthetics, their designs, but like run the show and kind of be on the grounds. But a lot of times, like one of the last projects I did was called Minx, and I oversaw the beauty and the makeup effects. And so with that, the producers just hired me, and then I would call out to FX shops and stuff, and they would build the prosthetics, and then I'd hire the people and stuff like that.
Okay, so it kind of happens.
Prosthetics for Minx.
Yeah.
Are we talking like schlong? Yeah, that's what I thought.
For the audio, I'm glad you said that, Chris, because otherwise.
Sorry, I'm doing an inappropriate smack with my hand, probably. A lot of penis prosthetics. So that was a wild one.
Yeah.
And there were 2 seasons of that. I had Jason Collins from Autonomous and then Jason Hamer from Hamer Effects both build the prosthetics, and then we applied them and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it really...
You got to make the actor pretty comfortable you were...
Oh my God.
You were there.
I was there.
Yeah.
I was there. I would always have someone with me. I would always have the conversations before. My biggest thing was making sure everybody was comfortable, because I'm like, hey, I'm a female. Are you cool with me being there? Stuff like that. But it was a pretty funny situation because I kept being like, I'd have these guys come in, like we tucked and we did all this stuff to put prosthetics over. And a lot of these guys had never done that before. And I'm like being like, sorry to kind of mansplain to you about what to do with
I
your
didn't realize there was a tuck. I didn't understand.
I had to, So when you put do you guys want to know?
Yeah, tell us. I'm sure inquiring minds want to know. If you watch, I didn't actually see the show, this is something that you don't want the audience to know.
Yeah.
Most of what you do is they should not be aware of it.
Exactly. And that was the fun thing to do. The first season, we had some people with prosthetics and some people not. And so the game was like, guess who has prosthetics?
Oh.
But there's a lot of penis prosthetics now, and there still were, but at the time, like even 3 years ago, it was kind of like a newer thing, and so we were kind of figuring out, so there's different ways that we'd apply it. But I learned from some of my friends that are drag queens, and then like learning from actually like transgender kids and stuff and what they do. I found a way of like tucking in this tape that they do for when they go in swimsuits and stuff. And so basically we would do a little tuck for the guys, and then we would put the prosthetic piece over.
Got it.
So you're basically making yourself a Barbie doll.
And how long does that process take?
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we would usually do 3 hours. And the putting on the piece and putting
3 hours to put a
3 hours.
penis on.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then that's not even their face makeup after that.
No. But the thing with
And then
that,
what if they need to go to the bathroom?
So
Good question.
So we would do.
I feel like if you're tucking tape, that's not.
Yeah.
Is there catheters involved?
No. But could you imagine? Oh my God.
I would no thanks. I don't want the role.
It would take about 3 hours, but it would take 3 hours because I would give about an hour of like getting the person comfortable, letting them tuck and stuff. And really the prosthetic would take 2 hours, but we would give that time so that if people, were kind of fidgeting or whatever, just making sure they're comfortable and no one had to wait on us. So it wasn't that it took that long, but we didn't want it to take any longer for fidgeting and stuff.
Yes.
And then as far as going to the restroom and stuff, what we would do is, so this tucking tape is kind of like a little triangle. It kind of looks like, a thong without the straps on the side.
Okay.
So they would basically tuck up into their booty crack because we would get a lot of 360s of these guys too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so numb to this.
And we just met not too long ago, and we were like in it.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
Welcome to talking to
up
me.
The booty crack.
Up the
Continue.
booty crack, and
Yeah.
then we would glue it in one piece. So then, if they needed to use the restroom, we
They
could
could
unglue it on the back and kind of like.
Without removing the whole prosthetic.
Yeah. So like the prosthetic would be glued like.
So if you're standing at the urinal, you've got 2 dicks.
Yeah, you've got 2 dicks. That must be a pretty wild situation.
Chris.
Well,
Yeah.
2. Now I'm.
That's
You're like,
something we.
what
I don't
would
think
that
we've
be
seen-
like?
I don't think we've seen that yet, though.
No. That's.
I mean, we did some crazy shit. Like we put a penis in a tennis racket. Like I don't even know if that's
a
physically
tennis racket?
possible. Yeah.
That was
like it
supposed
got
to
stuck?
still be
Yeah, like he took the
attached
handle
to a
off
human
and
body.
and then he actually he was like hitting balls with it. Like it was crazy.
This was in the show?
Yeah.
Is this show still on?
No.
Oh,
HBO?
It was.
Sounds like HBO. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is if you haven't seen the show, like it sounds really like, I guess it doesn't sound grotesque, but the funny thing about it is it was about, it was basically a play on Playgirl. So it was like the start of Playgirl in the 1970s.
Is it
so
based
like,
on a true story?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. But so basically, a lot of the nudity, it wasn't like people like banging and stuff. It was more like models standing around and things like that. So that was kind of like, it was almost like, I feel like the nudity was a character in the show, you know?
And then how did they choose who was going to have prosthetic and who was going to have real? Or is that the actor's choice?
I think, you know, I think a lot of times now we're coming into that more where it's an actor choice or not.
Yeah.
For that, it was more being able to control it, I guess. You know what I mean? Like
I know
having
what you
people
mean.
there for like, you know, these guys were in these prosthetics for 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Some of them were because, I guess you can cut this out, but one guy had like a 10-inch penis that got like an erection at one point. So like we wanted a big thing that we could control going up and down.
Oh, the character did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought this. I was like,
an
no,
actor, and I was like, oh.
I mean, there
this
were
was
some
in the
actors who were
script.
like, I don't need one. I was like, that's
This was
cool,
in the
but they
script.
want you to have one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like being able to control that. And then we had one guy who had like a micro penis. So, you know, he loved that. He was like, great. I
Yeah,
was like, you'll be
great.
fine. Everyone will be so stoked when they figure out that's not what you have. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends.
Okay.
Do you ever have these moments where you're like down there, you're doing this is your job, and go like,
This is my job.
this is my job.
You know what? Once I get on set sometimes and start thinking about it, you know what I mean? When you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, especially with the dick racket thing, I was like, what is this?
Oh, yeah.
This
Yeah.
is so insane.
Well,
But what a
we did it-
challenge, you know?
Yeah.
Do you know who did our prosthetics for Golden Revenge?
Oh, God.
It was severed testicles.
Yeah.
Stop. So you guys know?
Oh, yeah.
You know the dick
Oh,
prosthetic
yeah.
game?
So we had this. There was an explosion, and the guy blows up,
Lost
and
his-
it was a comedy, and so his testicles fly off, and they like land
someone in
on
the face.
hit somebody in the face.
That's amazing. Tell me it stuck for a second.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course it did.
But
otherwise, you wouldn't be able to
then
read it.
I did
But
not throw them out, and I have hid them around
For the-
Tanner's
for the next
office
year
or
after
in
that.
his
They would be in
bag. He
drawers.
just opened it.
I
and-
love you so much
I mean,
for that.
I mean,
I love you so much for
if
that.
you have severed testicles that are like, but then my daughter found them. She's like, "What are these? This is gross. What is it?" I was like,
Well,
What-
yeah.
What did you say? You're like, they're squishy toys.
I said something but the thing is, they're covered in blood. Like,
The end of it, yes.
so I was just
And you
like,
have to
oh,
have-
that was something for a movie. It was blood and guts.
And you know, we've never had an official HR in our production office, so that was kind of because that person would have been like,
What's Golden Revenge?
"What is
Oh.
Golden? Oh, Golden Revenge was a series we did for Warner Brothers.
unreleased.
It's unreleased, yeah. So
was-
I'd love
had
to
to-
show you the shop, but it'll never see the light of
The
day.
distributor they
I mean,
had
I
on
would
board
love to see it secretly. I would love to see.
He probably still has the prosthetic. You kept some
in
of
a
them?
box in our storage somewhere.
It's good.
Tell me-
The severed
listen.
testicles
Simmer's gonna
are never
find it
going
while
anywhere.
looking for hats or something one of
Listen,
these days.
I don't even care if this is creepy. I kept the 10-inch one.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a bag, you know, it's like in a bag, it's all, but I was like, this is too good.
Well,
There's
I can't.
artistry to making it.
Well,
Listen.
that was my initial point to bring it up because I was like, oh my God. I mean, this was for a quick sight gag, but the detail,
Oh, yeah.
it was unbelievable.
Every
Yeah.
hair is done by hand.
Yeah.
Hand punched,
and I'm
hand
like,
laid. Yeah.
So same kind of thing. I'm like, this is their job to like do this stuff. And, and we had other things, arms and fingers and different things, but it's amazing. And it's like, I'm just picturing they're in the shop. They've got all their photo references and putting all
these
that
dudes,
together.
all these like rocked out dudes and stuff who are all like, oh, and then they're sculpting a dick, you know?
Exactly.
It's definitely been a funny thing. And
So when did you? Oh, go ahead. I'll
No,
let
no,
you finish.
you go
I was
ahead.
gonna say. So was that what you did? Did that come after Teen Wolf then?
yeah, that was, you know, Teen Wolf. Oh God, I can't remember when our last season was, but it was before like 2019. So
It
it'd
was.
been a while.
Pre-pandemic.
But then, yeah, but then we did a Teen Wolf movie like in 2022 or something. So that was fun. It was like,
So did they call all the usual suspects back to
yeah,
do
that
it?
was really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I don't. Was that a TV movie or did it actually?
Yeah,
have
it,
a-
Paramount
it
Plus,
was.
I think.
Yeah, it came out on
Oh,
Paramount
okay.
Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So take us back.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, and tell us where you grew up, did you dream of being a prosthetic makeup
No.
artist? Yeah, tell me.
So I grew up in Valley Center, which is in San Diego, but it's kind of North County. It's very like, I mean, we live in the desert, but it's very desert. It has like 3 Indian reservations on it and stuff. So I was kind of like in the boonies.
Yeah.
And I always had, to make a long story short, I always wanted to be a dancer and a choreographer. So like that's what I went to school with. That's what I went to school for. And I had never really thought about hair and makeup and film. I thought about hair and makeup just in general of like performing, but that was kind of it. So I went to school. I thought I was going to be a choreographer. I had kind of like this freak surgery where, long story short, they found like a lump in my throat and it ended up being like this bundle of nerves, blah, blah, blah. They cut it out. But when they cut it out, it severed some nerves. And so I couldn't sweat properly, or my pupils can't dilate anymore properly. I don't know if they're the same right now, but sometimes it's like I got the David Bowie thing going on.
Two different.
Oh yeah. No, I see.
Is
One's
it
a little
happening
bigger
right
than
now?
another. Yeah.
It might be because of lights. It changes all the time.
Yeah.
But so, wild story of like, I tried to dance. I really couldn't. It was really physically hard. I was like throwing up in class and stuff. And just out of a knee-jerk reaction, I was going to Cal State Long Beach at the time. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And because I had been so career driven, even like as a teenager, I was just like, what do I do? What do I do? I need to do something. And I was like, oh, I can do makeup for dance. I can do makeup. I want to do Cirque du Soleil. And I know a lot of these people do their own makeup and stuff. But at the time I was like, this is what I want to do. So just kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I took out a loan and I went to school. So like, I think I left Cal State Long Beach, and within 3 months I had moved out to LA just on loans and went to makeup designery. And a couple weeks in, I just started really gravitating towards like effects and character work. And then I just was like, oh, I think I want to pursue doing this in TV and film. So it's kind of just a weird, like a lot of effects people, like when I first got in, they were like, you didn't even want to do this since you were like 10. And I was like, no, but like, I love it. And the more I learn about it, the more I love it. But it was definitely something that learning as I go, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and taking a pivot when you had to.
Taking a pivot, yeah. Like I remember I started doing like student films and stuff like that, like a couple weeks, luckily even a couple weeks into makeup school. So that's kind of what pushed me more towards like doing effects and stuff. So yeah.
What is like so far in your career? What has been like not just the specific thing you were doing, but just the best atmosphere, the best kind of working conditions that you've been in so far? Is there something that you really, the people maybe, and kind of what made that?
You know, I've been really lucky because I've worked with a lot of great people. You know, like Teen Wolf was definitely like my first, you know, you hate to say it because like, you know how that can be. Sometimes people are like, we're a family, but really like Teen Wolf was like my first introduction to all of that. And
Yeah,
like,
and it's a show though, so in a way that can become a grind.
Oh my gosh, like 20.
I mean, it never ends.
I'm explaining to people, I'm like, it's so weird now. I feel like the 20 episodic thing is done and stuff like,
it never
you know,
happens.
because we were working like 10, 11 months out of the year.
Sure.
And it was interesting because at the time I joined the union when I was 25. And so a lot of these actors, they were a little younger than me, but it was still like a weird time that I feel like I'm never going to grow up with some actors like I did then, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, Minx was a really great show because I feel like creatively I was working with a lot of really incredible like costume designers and hairstylists, and like the show was really difficult in the sense that we were doing period work, we were doing like full body makeups, we were doing nudity, we were doing prosthetics, but it was just so cool because I really liked the producers I worked with, I really liked the actors I worked with. It was a really cool world where everyone would really collaborate and come together, and I feel like that was a project that I just felt like it was very difficult, but I was like really fulfilled, like artistically. You know
Were
what I
you
mean?
HOD on that one?
Yeah.
Head of department?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So tell me about making that jump into being a head of a department and what changes from being just an artist.
I had kind of an interesting thing because I kind of got thrown into it early. So before I was in the union, you know, I got out of makeup school and I did student films, and I luckily got in working with Asylum. Do you guys know who Asylum?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, like Mega Shark versus
Yes,
Tornado
yeah.
and all that
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
It's like total mayhem, but like at 22 years old or something, like what a great experience of like all these crazy low budget shows where I'm just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like gluing tubes to people. I don't know what's happening, you know? But so I basically, you know, technically you're head of department there. So, I mean, at the most, I probably had 2 people ever working with me, but
Right.
that was just kind of always what I did. I was kind of always the person on the show. And then when I came into Teen Wolf, there were just a couple of years and their makeup department head had left, and they had some people that didn't really work out. And Chris Gallagher at the time, who was running the makeup effects, he's like, you know, Carleigh's ran a lot of shows that are non-union. And Jeff Davis, the creator, is like, screw it, let's do it. Let's take a chance. Let's see how she is. And so I kind of got thrown into that. And then from there, luckily, I just had people that kind of kept reaching out to me, and some of like, and so it was just this kind of cool, like, you know, back-to-back thing where people knew I had run Teen Wolf, so that gave me a lot of credit, I guess, for that I could run a difficult show. And then also some of the people I started coming up with were starting to like work on higher things and brought me on.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a weird, like I don't have to be the head of department, but it's cool that kind of happened and I was able to get those opportunities and keep going with that, you know?
And being head of department, it's not only you are more of a creative lead,
Yeah.
right? But also there's a business management aspect to it.
Well,
as
you
well.
know, it's
I mean,
1% of
yes.
it. You know, you can have the best makeup artists in the world, and who gives a shit because they can't work with people and they don't run a good team, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So definitely, I mean, and obviously, department heading from 10 years ago to now, I do it totally different. But yeah, it's a whole different ballgame because you're dealing with, you know, you got to have the right people. You got to have people that partner up well with the actors. You got to make sure that everyone's like, you just got to be on everybody. You got to creatively make sure you're talking producers, talking to everybody, talking to the effects houses. It's a million things like
And
you
time
said.
management.
Time management.
You have to be able to know
huge.
this is going to take.
How long is the
many-
merkin going to take?
Yeah.
This merkin's going to
Twerking
take.
for a merkin, baby. But that very much time management is a huge thing. It's like you're doing makeups too, and you need to be able to look around and see other things and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. You know, I think one thing about being a head of department is you really need to have good people, the right people for the show that you trust to be there when you're not.
Yeah.
Like, of course we have our personal situations, but I really think it's an ego-driven thing to be like, only I can touch this actor, only I can talk to the director, only da-da-da-da-da. It's like, no, other people need to be able to go on set, other people need to be able to make quick decisions, and I think that's a really good leader as well.
Yeah.
Is trusting your team and knowing that it can be handled,
Yeah.
you know, but also having a hold on it to know what's going on and stuff and be in the loop. So like if something's happening on set and my artist is handling it and then a producer comes and talks to me in the trailer, I still know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I had this moment when I first started out in the business. I was working on Vanilla Sky, and Tom
cool.
Cruise was having his prosthetic makeup done.
Yeah.
And we were doing makeup tests, and I think before this, I had always thought of makeup as like, okay, it's making everybody look their best, and prosthetic makeup was just like, okay, now you're doing something interesting. Or I had not realized how much an actor relies on makeup for the embodiment of their character
Yeah.
and how much thought needs to go into it until we were in these makeup tests and the makeup wasn't working. And Tom was getting very frustrated because he's like, this is not right. This is not who this character is. And it was just, he was really like talking with the makeup artist, and they were working it out. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, this is like a whole art form that is a huge piece to what a character is. And the makeup artist has to be really good and on point and in line with the
And
director
communicate
and the
and-
actor. And it's
that is a
no
huge
small
thing.
task.
It's
Yeah.
a good makeup artist is someone that helps bring a character to life and help the actor kind of feel more embodied in themselves. Like I've seen makeup artists do things that like you wouldn't even notice a little how they shadowed or did something on screen, but to the person in the chair, they're like, this just makes me feel better with it. That's a very minimal
Sure.
like example, but you really are there to, as a head of department and as just an artist, go into that. Like you have to speak to the producers, the actors, all these people, and you need to bring that look together for everybody so that everyone's comfortable.
Yeah.
So as a makeup artist, head of department, that's one of the big things. And you have to, I know a lot of people who are like, I don't know a lot of people, but some people, I keep saying an ego, but we know they're there, that they're like, well, the actor wants this, but this is better. And it's like, no, this is a living, breathing person that you're working with, and this is your canvas.
Have
and
you ever
need
had
to-
any of those kind of conversations where the actor has like a strong way they want to do it, but it's not quite what you've been told through your previous meetings? And how would you have to kind of meet in the
Yes.
middle somewhere?
Yes, you got to be patient.
Yeah.
I have a lot of
Have you had to do that? And oh, by the way, they're on set
yes.
in 10 minutes.
Yeah. So, I do like doing a lot of period makeup and stuff like that, and 70s, 60s, whatever. And a lot of sometimes actors want to come in and they don't want to embody what that is.
Yeah.
As far as like they don't want to lose the lashes, they don't want to lose certain highlight and shadow kind of TikTok things that people are doing.
Modern makeup.
Yes.
trends,
And so I've had a lot of, I've even had a show where one character kind of fought it the whole time, but it was what was best for her. And we just kind of had to baby her through it and try and be as patient. But, sometimes that is part of your job of being like, this is what needs to be done. And I know this might be not exactly what you want. I know you don't want to get a tan, but your character needs one. And that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
So it's just sometimes having patience, but a lot of times also having people come in and like trying to be like, okay, I understand you want your lashes to look a certain way. I understand you want to feel a certain way, but let me show you techniques that we can do that can kind of make that happen without having the huge lashes, having the huge, like maybe it's a subtle like shadow that you're smoking out in the 70s way or the 60s way that kind of gives a look, You know, it's a dance, really.
Yeah.
It really is a dance.
Well, and then it brings up like the research you have to do
yeah.
for all these time
Yeah.
periods and everything to even know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. So you're not just bullshitting. If
Yeah.
you're like, what, you know, you got to know. And then do you show people kind of photos in a way?
Yeah,
Like,
so
this
what
is the deal.
That reminded me is, you know, when I'm researching for a period piece, I go like crazy. You know, I'm like in yearbooks, I'm in like past books and stuff, and like
Yeah.
all I want to see is that time period. You know, you want to get to a certain space where you look up and you'd be like, what world am I in? I'm in this world. But what I do, like in my trailer and like when I'm doing makeup tests, like the whole trailer has photos everywhere. So everywhere you look, you're kind of in that time period. And then for every character, I like to, if I can, I build like, for main characters, I'll build like a board for like the producers and actors and everybody kind of talk about like, this is kind of 4 photos that kind of engulf what we think this character is. And so a lot of these times when these actors come in here, like I'll have examples of what I'm talking about of like, this is kind of where we see your character going and have that discussion. And if someone, you know, does have the say where they can kind of push their looks further and stuff, like I have books, I have research everywhere that we could pull things out and start looking and start playing, you know, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about continuity? And you can kind of explain, because
Yeah.
not everyone's film people, but explain what continuity is and that we don't shoot.
Blood
I
continuity.
was gonna say
Woo,
blood.
girl!
Always blood.
Yes. Talk about that.
So continuity is, you know, I'm not a script supervisor, but you know, it's making sure when you shoot something out of order of the script and stuff, you know, like one day we could be like there's a huge fight and we're shooting right before the fight, and then the next scene we're shooting, you know, 4 scenes into a 20-page fight or something. And so that's pretty crazy and something you have to keep track on as far as looks, and not even going to the fact that you're like, well, I don't really know what happens between this, but we'll do our best type thing. But so a lot of times, you know, we'll be jumping around scenes, and one scene they'll be perfectly fresh, and the next scene they've, like I said, been in a huge fight and they're bloody and cut up. And so something that makes you a good professional is knowing how to like keep those looks. You know, you take pictures, you have your continuity, you have your notes, you need to be on your shit with knowing where the scenes are and knowing where looks go. Like I'm very much a person who I'm used to, even on TV and films, like a lot of quick changes or like, no, we're going to pull up this scene and do this. So what I really like to do when I have a heavy, like a lot of makeup changes and stuff is I really break down the episode or the movie, and I always have in front of me a timeline for these characters. Like there was one season of American Horror Story where we were jumping around like crazy, and sometimes we weren't even getting scripts until the day. And so I would always have like my breakdown of what I know happens, and then I would have every character breakdown of like scene 1 through 10, she's in her daytime look, but 2 to 12, she's starting to get like sweaty because of this. 13 to whatever, like she just got in the fight, she has the cut lip. And so if for any reason, if we were on set and they pulled a scene or something, I could go right to and be like, no, she's at this stage, we got to get her back to the trailer, we got to do this. But you know, it's being very good about taking photos, taking notes, and like just being on your shit.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that like, you know, head of departments and just makes the
gotta be
amateurs
on
the
point.
professionals. It's like everyone can do, like a lot of people can do great makeups. There's a lot of people in this industry, and like
but
what
they
separates
can't keep that in order and prepare for the unseen and be ready for anything.
Yeah.
Tell me about blood, because there's all different types, right?
Right,
For
there's
depending
millions
on
of
what you
types.
want.
Coagulated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You got drying blood, you got dark blood, you got light blood, you got mouth blood, you got flow blood.
Okay.
You got regular dressing blood. You got different ways that you mix your bloods when you want to spray them for different effects.
Like
you
if
know
somebody
what I
gets
mean?
punched and then it's spray all
Yeah,
over,
yeah,
like
yeah.
different thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like, you know, you have like your mouth blood, which obviously like you don't want to drink it, but you can have it in your mouth. You have, I say, flow blood or running blood that kind of looks like wet blood. And flow blood is a type of blood that you can like shoot and spray, usually like dilate it more with water. And all of this is usually water based, and dilate that to how you want to spray. If you just want running blood, if you want spray everywhere, like your type of guy, you want to go 80s, or you just want running blood.
Right, right.
There's also these amazing alcohol based bloods. And what they do is, you know, when they dry, you can throw people in water, you can do all that kind of stuff, and they're waterproof. So that's really great.
Yeah.
And then if you want to make it, you know, a dried blood look wet, you would just put like lube over it or something like that and make it look shiny, you know?
Wow.
So,
Yeah, and it's funny because you can tell when blood looks fake.
oh God, isn't the
There's some
worst? There's
bad
nothing
blood
worse
out there,
There's
yeah.
nothing worse than the really light red kind of,
Yeah.
just shitty.
And then you see real actual blood, like my daughter got a bloody nose. And it's
Yeah.
just like, that almost looks fake because I'm so used to movie blood now.
Okay,
That's
listen,
too red.
I say this all the time. So real gore almost looks fake, right?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like real gore is so simple.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then sometimes in like a lot of times what I like to do, a lot of people do, is you'll kind of mix 2 colors of blood or something if you need like someone who's really been bleeding or it's been on them for a while.
Yeah, because
So
you're
you
gonna have
get
2
that-
different types and
Yes, but even so, you just get that dimension on camera. It doesn't read so
Yeah,
flat,
flat.
because sometimes if you do it in the way that you would see it on the street, it's so simple.
Yeah.
And it just would look fake on camera, which is so funny.
Yeah. Well, and then they do so much in post too. They like change the color and
Yeah.
everything. So yeah.
Which sometimes is great, and which sometimes you
bad.
get shittier blood with
Yeah,
that.
because
You
you're
know
like,
what I mean?
it looked great, but now you've colored, you've
Yeah.
you know, deepened this or brought it up too much,
Yeah,
and now
yeah,
it looks
yeah.
terrible again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use, you know, well, I think Chris and I both kind of feel it's really the, you know, the hair and makeup and kind of the hair and makeup team. If you want to know how your cast feels,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
check in with makeup, because they've sat with them for hours prior to going to set. And like, if you want to know what's going on, they're the people to. So it's like for us, for our projects, it's always like meet all the hair and makeup people, really build up that rapport. So then if something funky's going on set and you can't quite put your finger, it's like go to the head
That is
makeup
so
and go,
funny. Yep.
what do we know?
Yeah.
What'd they come to set with today?
Yeah.
Like, what are they struggling with?
It
you
is
know?
very true, because we are the people that we see them when they're most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we see them at the beginning
And
of
for
the
the
day.
most amount of time.
And for the most amount of time,
Probably.
you know, like I do.
Undivided amount of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I'm makeup, I'm in your face, you know what
Yes.
I mean? So, and a good hair and makeup team, I think, will really make or break a day too, like for an actor or something.
Sure.
If you have like a shitty makeup people with like bad attitudes, these actors are going to walk in every morning and have that. Like, you want a place that like people feel good and they feel comfortable enough to like talk and stuff, but you also don't want to make it a shitty environment where it just becomes like talking shit and doing all this stuff. You want it to
Yeah.
be like uplifting and be able to be like, yeah, that was a really hard day. We all have those days. Like I just said, I got off overnight. Fucking love the makeups I did, but man, it sucks to work 14 hours overnight. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so I think there is like, in a weird thing, there is like a power in that, you know, like you need to set the tone. You need to be an example.
Yeah. Well, and you guys are mostly the ones that get the pre-calls.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're
Oh,
the
yeah.
earliest people there because you got to start.
Yeah.
And then you're there, and then at the very end of the shoot.
Yeah.
So you are one of the departments that are there probably.
Us
got-
and transpo.
You have to take all the makeup
Yeah.
off
Yeah.
again.
You got to
too,
take it
yeah.
all off.
And
make
that's
sure.
the thing. That's the thing that a lot of people like getting into this industry. I'm like, you will probably be there before everybody comes to set
after
and
everyone
after
leaves.
everybody. And like, just because it's not a prosthetic, like beauty and character makeups can be just as involved. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like we had one of our Jessica, one of our actors on, I keep referencing Minx just because it was such a heavy period and prosthetic show. Like we full body tanned her every day because she didn't want to tan, which is totally cool. But we would do full body makeup
Like
on her
a
every
spray
day.
or
Like we
something?
would do like a spray, but we buff it on so at the end of the day she could get out of it. You know what I mean? It was like a body makeup and spray. But we would get her out of the makeup after every day, and even as quick as we go, it'd still take like 20 minutes or something, which like isn't a long time, but when you're
Add it all
scheduling
up.
and we're the first in and the last out, like I can't tell you how many days have been the turnaround for the next day has been like on me getting off the clock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How about tattoo covering? Like that's a huge part of your job.
Yeah,
now,
I
too,
love
isn't
it, though.
Is it fast? Is it?
I mean, so I'm strange where I don't mind a tattoo cover. I'm like, if you give me the time, we can do it, you know? What I will say is like, you do need to know your shit. You need to know color correction, all that kind of stuff, the right material, like the right type of materials to use for what you're doing and like what environment you're going to be in. For example, on Teen Wolf, Tyler Posey has a ton. He's the main guy. He has a ton of tattoos.
And he did on the show too? Because I knew
Yeah.
he did after, but
Yeah,
Oh,
So
yeah,
in
yeah.
real life, he has lots of tattoos.
Yeah, I mean, going from like season 3 to now,
yeah.
different. Like he got more and more as we went. But when we did the movie, he was fully, tattooed. But the first day I'm like, and even through the show, I remember the first day, I gave myself an hour to cover things. And then once I got it down, I was like, this is a 20-minute cover.
Oh, okay.
Like we got our stuff down.
Then do you smack him when he comes back with more tattoos? Go, dude,
No.
what are you doing? I had
You
this
know
down
what?
to 20 minutes.
The only time I got mad, which like I didn't get mad, but I was more like, come on, dude, I already talked to you about this. I'm not going to say who, but an actor once came to set who had just gotten a tattoo.
So like fresh?
Yeah.
Like I can't even cover
really-
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
tough.
And I had talked to him before and I was like, you shouldn't do that. And it's
Yeah.
okay, but that happened and I was like, man, you're making me the bad guy because I can't cover this because
can't
you're
cover
gonna
that.
get and he was like, just do it. And I was like, no, it's not good for you. Like it's an open wound. You
Yeah.
can't have it was like 3 days later, and you got to give a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I felt bad because then he went to I never want to like put people, you want to take care of your actors but you
course.
also like need to have a good relationship with your producers and your directors and stuff. And I was like, I hate to do this, but I have to go have this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
You
gotta
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he kind of got in trouble for it, but it's just like, I can't, it would be wrong of me to put makeup on him and
Yep.
Of course.
possibly scar him for the rest of his life. And so I had to have that conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's interesting because that kind of goes into the politics of it all. And, you know, communication skill, your actual skill as the artist, but then learning what you're really there to do, to keep the whole machine going and not let your bit hold up, but understand what everyone else is doing. How do you learn that? Because that's almost just as important as the actual skill or the trade you are doing, if not more sometimes, because the thing can either unravel. Was that more of, I mean, I'm sure they don't teach you that in actual makeup school. They're teaching you the craft.
Yeah.
But was that just being on set and seeing it? Obviously, there are some personalities that click to that a lot quicker than others. Some never for their whole career are still a-holes and never freaking figure it out.
Or just a social understanding of just how the politics of a set work.
Yeah. Well, and if you're working on a series, you really get a feel for that. But feature films, everyone's starting new, learning each other. And what do you prefer? I mean, you do both TV and feature films.
Yeah.
Do you like, again, series can be, it's a drag.
But it's steady work.
So it's that. But do you like kind of you really get to know a show and you know where all the things are and everyone knows each other, so it's easy? Or do you like the new freshness of a feature where it's like, we got a finite number of days that this whole thing has to get done and we're all working together for the first time? And is that more exciting?
I mean, I've never thought of it that way because I've always just thought of it as the work. I mean, it's great.
Because I'm always like, I always feel like you're like 2/3 through a movie, and then you're like, we're just now catching our groove.
That is totally
If
it.
we were where we were at now from the beginning, this would have been, you know what I mean? I always feel that way. So,
but then as producers, don't you feel like that's why you bring certain people back that you know it works? And so
of
you're
course, because you're like, we don't have time.
No job is ever the same, too.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, you know, when I've had people in interviews be like, so who's your makeup team? Which I always think is kind of funny, but I'm like, oh, for this project, like I would probably bring this and this person, but like my makeup teams depend on the project and they depend on what's needed in the show.
Yeah. Right.
Like I said, I did a show called Sex Lives of College Girls where it was like all beauty and all this stuff, but like I needed a totally different person on Teen Wolf or like American Horror Story depending on what's needed. So,
But you stayed pretty busy, it sounds like, even through the past couple of years.
I will say like the past couple of years have been the slowest I've ever been, but like I can't complain. Like, you know, I really can't complain. Like I've still been doing projects and stuff. Like they're not, you know, 4-month episodic shows or anything, but I've done like a few features. I've been really doing like some stuff I don't get to do normally. I've been jumping on some commercials and music videos and stuff. So that's like what's cool about hair and makeup too. And I'm sure with you guys is like, there's so many mediums you can go into. Yeah. So, you know, I got depressed for a little bit and then I was like, again, seeing other people who've come up this industry older than me, it's like, you can be the best makeup artist, the best director or whatever. And you might just have a couple slow years because your producers aren't working. It has nothing to do with where you stand, which we all have imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So for me, like that was the biggest fight was just the imposter syndrome this past couple of years. But it's also like there's nothing wrong with it. That's just ebbs and flows, and this is just part of it. Like I was telling you guys, I kind of had a crazy week because it was kind of like I wasn't busy, and now I had like all these night shoots last week, and now I'm going to Montana for 7 weeks, you know, and like before that I maybe had like 3 days of work in a month, which also was fine. That's also something I've learned as older to embrace. Holy shit.
Embrace the slow times.
How many breakdowns have I met? Like, you know, just yourself being like, oh my God, our schedules are so crazy and stuff, like throughout like my 20s and stuff. And then being like, oh, it's good. A work-life balance is also some of the best. You know, it's hard. Some people are really crazy in this industry and it breeds kind of wildness, and it's hard to find people that are really you know, how do I
just level-headed,
just grounded.
And
I find that those people are the ones who learn to take breaks. You know what I mean? And learn to give space between. You don't always get that luxury.
No.
You know, if I had people I wanted to work with and it made me work for a year and a half straight, I would do it. But it's also learning to choose where to be and where to put your energy is really important too. Which I feel like is something that obviously is something you work towards and is like very thankful to be able to have that. But
I think as you get older too, you start having more of a desire for that life balance. Pandemic also really changed that for all of us.
I don't think I would even know if it wasn't for the pandemic.
That forced slowdown that we all had. We're like, oh, this is something I need.
And we can do this.
And also nobody's doing anything. So it's like,
so it's okay.
It doesn't, which is horrible. It shouldn't be that way.
But
You
we're all hard workers. Like if
Yes.
you're not in this business, if you're
Yeah.
not a hard worker and don't
Yeah.
enjoy it to some level,
And a
so
hustler, yeah.
it's also hard for some of us to slow down sometimes.
Yes, and it feels almost guilty.
Yes.
Which is so weird.
Yeah.
You're like,
I
"Come
didn't
on,
do a million things today.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
I didn't work 20 hours today.
And here we are on a Sunday morning doing a podcast. So that's
Yeah.
clearly we're all cut
But
from the
it's
same
because
cloth.
we love it and we
Yeah.
love talking about it
Yeah,
to
yeah,
people who like-minded and kind of like get the gist of it, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
the thing. It was like thinking of other things to do. It's just like we're all here because we love what we do. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, the hours are insane, but like this is where we find our creativity and this is like what we want to do. And
Yeah.
when you're with a good group of people and you make some cool shit, there's no better feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Like what better feeling than all that work and seeing it for the first time on camera and you're like, this works.
Yeah.
And you look around and you're like, this works.
Yeah.
What's better than that?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing is better.
Preach.
Yep.
Yeah.
Carleigh, thank
What?
you so much
Oh
for
my
joining
God.
us today.
Thank
is
you for
amazing.
having me.
Yeah,
Yes.
this was a great conversation.
Okay, good.
I like when you can sit down with someone you've never met before and it
Yeah,
just
this is
flows
super
so
I feel like I've known
easily.
you forever. Like
Yeah.
now
so
we need to
sweet.
find a way to work together.
Let's
Exactly.
make
Yes,
some
let's-
cool shit.
Yes, and put it on screen.
Hey listeners, if you've got a burning question for Chris, Tanner, or one of our amazing guests, we want to hear from you. Slide into our DMs at Eyes On Podcast on Instagram, and we might just answer your question on our season finale wrap-up episode. Thank you so much for listening to Eyes On Conversations with Hollywood Filmmakers. Eyes On is hosted by Chris Hanada and Tanner Kling and produced by Simran Porwal Johnson and Jonathan Misrahi. The views, opinions, and comments expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Retrofit Films. This podcast may include copyrighted material used under fair use provisions. All copyrighted material remains the property of their respective owners.